welcome to the podcast. This show is entirely dedicated to the wisdom and the stories of people embracing their true and extraordinary nature, of overcoming, breaking through limits, tapping into universal wisdom, and hopefully inspiring you to do the same. Okay, welcome back to Being Extraordinary. Today I have a guest, Stephanie Jamie, on the podcast with me. And Steph and I've met through crossing paths through like mutual healers, and we've been at a couple of retreats together. And I've always felt very drawn to you. You've done sessions with me. It's been awesome. And recently we were just chit-chatting on Instagram, social media, and you had said some really interesting things that I was like, I need you to just talk about this incredible journey on the podcast. You had talked to me about how the disconnection that happens throughout our life, for whatever reason, which you'll take us on that journey, creates so many issues for us in the rest of our life and being able to connect to other things in our life, like our joy, love, relationships, and how we need to be able to essentially come back home to ourselves to find the things that we're looking for in this life. And I was just like, I highlighted that note that you put, and I was like, please tell your story about this disconnection and how it's affected you in your journey and what sort of healing and stories that you found for us along the way. So welcome, Stephanie Jamie, and I'd love for you to take us on a bit about you and your journey.
Hello, beautiful humans. Well, first of all, I would like to spread some gratitude to Kayla for asking me to take this huge leap and jump on this podcast with you. And so grateful for the journey that I have chosen and the humans who have joined my journey with me. So one huge thing that I have realized and came to on my journey is one thing that's very important to me on a daily basis is to connect. So I feel like right now, because we all are energetical beings and we all have a frequency, that we literally should take one great big breath right down to our belly. Now let's take one more, because connecting with my heart has been a huge part of my journey, because love is truly the center of our beings. So let's take one great big breath, connect to our hearts. And now let's chat about my story. This lifetime, I chose to come into this world very disconnected from myself, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I chose to come into this world literally without feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in a body for 46 years that was full of control, manipulation, greed, stubbornness, and completely out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And because of those choices that I made and the choices that I've made for myself in many past lives, this lifetime, I chose to change all of those feelings that I was holding in myself and realize by digging deeper and deeper and deeper into myself, into my shadow self, I literally was not connected to my heart and my soul. And in that realization, as I started to heal and grow, I reconnected and went from a physical body that literally felt like death to feeling alive again and seeing how the natural world can be so beautiful and is so beautiful.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge even in of itself, right? To say that you felt like you were kind of just a shell of a human for, did you say 46 years of your life?
Yes.
And now you kind of are like, wow, I'm like animated. It almost feels like that shell is like you kind of reanimated your incarnation and are living more heart centered, like you said. So, can you tell us a little bit about what your, previous 46 years look like? Like, what did it look like as a child? What did it look like? How did you start that journey?
So I started my journey into this lifetime by being conceived in a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And then at my birth, being given up for adoption. My birth mother at the time chose to name me, and she chose to name me Stephanie Jamie C. Then, after she gave me up for adoption, I spent 2 weeks in foster care as Stephanie Jamie Seats. And 2 weeks later, I was adopted. And my adopted family chose to change my name to Rhonda Lee Bonke, AKA why the name change. I literally felt trapped. Not that Rhonda Lee Bonke doesn't have things to teach me. Rhonda has taught me a lot. But on this journey, literally going from the self-sabotage, the addictions, the teasing, the fact that nobody ever knew how to spell my last name correctly.
Mm.
I'm sure a lot of people can feel that in their last names and in their names. And then realizing that Rocket Rhonda had to come into play and literally launch me to the part where I realized that for this time in my life, I want to honor the name that my birth mother gave me, which is Stephanie Jamie, and choosing not to hold a last name right now because I believe that we are here as humans to evolve. Mm-hmm. By me letting go of everything that name held in the negative fact. Mm-hmm. Has allowed me to grow into who I am today.
That's huge. So, like, not just metaphorical disconnection, literal disconnection. You spent the first 2 weeks of your life, did you say in foster care?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, very disconnected. And just to speak on your name for a moment, when I first met you, you'd introduce yourself as Rhonda to me. And from the second that I met you, I was like, this name just doesn't fit this human. And I remember being like, it's just a name that doesn't like click with how you present yourself. And when you found your birth name, I was like, oh my God, that's who she is. Like, that's who you look like to me. That name fits you. Not that there's anything wrong with the other name. It just doesn't fit. It didn't fit in my brain. And now I was like, oh, that's way better fit. You do look like a Stephanie Jamie. And just for the listeners, that's something that's always happened to me. If I remember being in high school and there was this girl and I can't even remember what her actual name was, but I called her Jessica all the time because that's what she just looked like, a Jessica to me. So it's like, once I have a name in my head that I think you should have, it's like, that's who you are now. And it's just a weird thing that's happened my whole life. So it's not specific to just you, Stephanie, but it's like the whole thing, right? So I remember you telling me and I was like, wow, that's the name.
Yep. And you speaking about your friend Jessica, if we all reflect back or on the time that we're in right now, think of how many people in this world have a nickname, or they don't actually even go by their real name, mm-hmm. or they choose to go by their middle name, right?
As someone who experienced that, what do you think that's all about? Just feeling like, what does it feel like?
Well, now that I can actually feel, now I understand completely why in this world we have chose that path of disconnection. So in all reality, when we wake up and choose to see who we truly are inside of ourselves, we can be like, wow, okay, that is why it always bugged me when people called me, bonkers, Rhoda,
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why Rhonda had a Honda, right? Because everybody used to, it's literally those patterns of disconnection from literally who we're not truly meant to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mirror of literally learning from those disconnections that we choose in this world and then reconnecting with ourselves.
And so when you started to have that reconnection, what was that like triggering moment kind of thing? Like what was the defining moment where you're like, I need to get in touch with myself? The defining moment, one of the defining moments.
Yeah. The biggest defining moment for me was when I was literally where I felt like so heavy and so unhappy in my body that I chose to go on a journey to Saskatchewan to a retreat that I knew nothing about, and then put myself in a position where we were fasting, and literally the tears started. I had locked one of the biggest gifts that my body has is my tears, is water, is the flow. In a body with extreme unhealthiness and extreme inflammation, I literally locked the truth with my tears and my water and my flow.
Wow.
In my body from head to toe.
Wow. So when you kind of unlocked that emotion through obviously a form of purification when you're fasting, and you were able to unlock that, did you see your body then respond? Because I just imagine, like holding that in and it's like, yeah, inflaming. And then when you've been able to meet that part of you, has your body like corresponded and healed with that as well?
Oh, like full send times 10. Literally, that is when I was given the name Rocket Rhonda. So I launched myself literally out of that retreat back home, where learning my own spirals, my own addictions, taking one by one and connecting, with my brain, which my brain was one of the most manipulative ones probably on this planet. I literally had I didn't care about myself, right? My self-doubt was gigantic. And then learning to reconnect with my own thoughts and my own body, and then just allowing myself the time, the patience, the courage to literally let go of it all. Work with it, believe it, feel it, and then do it. And then through that journey, I literally went from a body that carried hundreds of pounds of weight to a couple 100 pounds. And literally, as I continue to grow, I can literally feel the connection in my body now.
That is just mind blowing. Like something that's come into my awareness too. There's actually some studies, and I obviously don't have them in front of me, but I'll link them in the notes below. Particularly with women, I forget what the study was. The study was about stress on the body. And we all know that like traditional studies are always centered around men. But this one, they brought men and women in the cohort and they tested stress on the body. And with men, it didn't really affect their physical body to a really high degree. Women, on the other hand, like the more stressed and the more cortisol, the more, like disconnected, the more, frantic they were, the more weight that they gained. And so now there's kind of this emerging body of work in like the somatic field where it's like women in particular, like all people benefit from this, but women in particular need to, like decompress their nervous system in order to even be able to lose weight. And so when you say this story, it's like I allowed myself to cry. And then all of a sudden, I've lost physical, measurable weight, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like that's just mind blowing to me. Like this is stuff that like really revolutionizes women's health. And so that's just one really amazing example of how like sometimes what's happening inside of our bodies isn't about the food that we are or aren't eating. It's about the stories, the trauma, the pain that we're carrying. And if you are disconnected, if you're not able to even understand what's happening inside of your own body, well, how can we process it? That's wild. And then when you had also said, or wait, do you have anything you want to say about the body first? Because this is like a different question.
Oh, absolutely. We could talk about the body for truly, let's just talk about women. But I see the disconnection truly coming back to balance. If we honestly think about our world, we as women, a lot of us are people pleasers. A lot of us are here to serve other people. And I truly believe that in that disconnection and in that people pleasing, we have literally allowed ourselves to disconnect from inside.
100%.
Feminine side is truly when we are in complete balance, that is where our power is. That is where we literally have power to gain full control of what is actually happening, what we're feeling in our bodies, right?
Exactly. And I see it's been a long time coming, but women are just tasked with so much. And if you think about the design of women, and when I say the design of women, I'm specifically referring to, for me, astrology, like astrological design, where it's like women are from Venus, men are from Mars. And I'm not really talking necessarily about women and men, I guess, more like masculine, feminine energy, like you said. So it's like the feminine energy is typically ruled by Venus, and she's very indulgent and balanced, and she's very receptive. Mars, which is the masculine energy, is very active and very like action oriented and fiery, and like they actually need to move their bodies and like go to war and like run around. And so together they make up, we're different measurements, right? But like that's so true when you were saying that. It's like the feminine energy needs to be receptive, indulgent, balanced. There needs to be that space that happens with her. And presently, women are so pressured to be everything to everyone. So it's like no wonder it's difficult for us to connect to and take care of our bodies. Like it's just not the way it's designed. And that's what I want to say. I want to say designed. It's just personally, in my opinion, that was the original design. And we're all a different measurement of masculine and feminine. So each of us has a unique approach, but the feminine is like not honored in this world, like at all.
Mm-hmm. I completely feel like I feel that like 100% in my soul. Literally, the fact that being yourself is so important. We have allowed ourselves to disconnect again and not truly, naturally be who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And also, that you bring up astrology, I chose to bring myself into this lifetime being born on a cusp of Pisces and Aries. And those two things working together, water and fire, literally reconnecting with my heart has shown me my fire within. The fire of love, kindness, truly loving yourself, connecting back into who you truly are naturally, right?
Yes, that's huge.
Rhonda was very fake, very untruthful, very deceptive, right? Like very hidden. And literally learning that rhythm of my own heartbeat and my own body and mind and soul literally has allowed me to feel so much joy day by day by day.
Wow. And that's huge. Like, I think if we had to actually ask ourselves, individually, what is it that we want? We would say things like money or time or whatever. But at the end of the day, what does it all fall back to? It's like to feel joy, to feel alive, to feel like that space or time to actually get into our bodies and feel those feelings. So that is such a goal of, I think, a lot of us on this planet. Or it might just be like the actual goal. And the fact that you're tapping into it is huge. When you say you were disconnected, what did a day in the life look like when you felt very disconnected? Like, how were your relationships? What was your job like? What was going on at that period in time? And then maybe like, what does it look like now? Paint the picture for us.
Oh, again, very, very, very people pleasing. I didn't really take time for myself, right? I was looking for love in all the wrong places, in all the wrong ways, when truly love is inside of us all, right?
And do you think that craving for love was you like trying to fill that disconnection that you had experienced so early in life?
Oh, absolutely. And many, many, many lifetimes before. Like I've chose to run away from myself to honestly, I believe, come into this world to help and show people how they can reconnect and shine. I chose a corporate job where I was the mastermind of the community. I made everybody happy because I gave them their packages, their mail. I seen the greed in myself, not only the entire world, and again, like you had said about money, right? I chose to live a life in a small community on a farm with my mom and my daughter for a good portion of my life, and then seeing how the manipulation and control can weave itself through generational things. So out of my mother into me, and then full send times 10 into my daughter. And then realizing that truly in this lifetime, what I need to see in this world is that we are all human. We all have problems. We all make mistakes. We all have backstories that are painful, but we truly can take those stories, our weaknesses, our shadow self, and work with it. Choosing to be one of the most stubborn people on this planet, but then learning to work with that stubborn and actually work towards becoming healthy has literally saved my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And so this retreat kind of opened you up. You came back and you were just like, you found your name and now you spend time connecting. So, what are some practices that you have when it comes to connecting to your heart or when it comes to connecting back to your body? Because that's a full 180-degree different focus. What does that look like as a practice?
One of the number one things that I truly had to do for myself is to start speaking for myself. I was really good at falling onto other people, right? Especially my mom, right? I was really good at just hiding the truth, right? Literally realizing that disconnection from my head and my body, right? So reconnecting through mindfulness, gratitude, literally allowing myself to speak up for myself. And then in speaking up for myself, allowing myself the time to literally take each day, day by day, moment by moment. Because when somebody asks me, well, what do you do every day? I honestly don't know. I do something for myself every day. Every day is different. One day I might be learning, reading. One day I might be napping. One day I might be out working with people on a podcast with Kayla.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally learning my rhythm. is what the key has been, and allowing myself the time to do that, and then allowing myself to disconnect from that greed of money, because money was a huge thing for me. I felt like I needed everything because that's how I found love, or that's how I found, right? That's how I made myself look good, by having it all. And when I truly learned that having it all wasn't having it all, that disconnection from that greed of money has allowed me to live just such a simpler life.
Wow. You've had like so many gems just came through, just came through you. Like, being able to connect to your own voice. I mean, it's even hard for me to like admit, but some of the big parts of my journey have been being able to speak up for myself. Yeah, like I was a people pleaser and I didn't even know it, And so when you start actually communicating honestly, there's this part that nobody ever talks about where you have to actually know what your truth is in order to be able to say it. And if you're so used to thinking about what other people are thinking about or what they need from you, to then all of a sudden be like, wait, what's going on inside of here, is not an easy move. So that reconnection to even like, yeah, your heart and knowing what's going on in here and then having the courage to speak it, amazing. And when you talk about the greed with money as well, like I just recently did a session for somebody, and one of the things was like, yeah, like when you are looking for your value externally, it's never going to amount to what you want it to. So you probably even found, I mean, I'm guessing that no matter how much money you had, it still wasn't actually enough because it wasn't the issue, right?
So true. So true.
Yeah. And so there's this like need for all of us to come back into our internal definitions of what value is, our internal definitions of what success is or what matters to us, because we are bombarded constantly with it's money, it's a nice house, it's a fancy car, it's a promotion at work. But I know so many people that have all those things and it's always just comes up short because that's not what our soul's here to do. It really isn't.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And literally learning the power in the pause. We are in full speed, normal, in our normal human being lives. We are literally, our life around us has taught us to be in full speed. And that truly for me was what brought on that compulsive buying, right? The need. Everybody else has it. Why don't I have it? Right? And then literally learning to literally pause before I purchase something. Do you really need that? Is that going to serve you? Is that going to help you? Is that going, like, you have 14 other coats at home. Do you really need another coat? Right? Or literally allowing myself to literally just pause throughout the day, right? To say, okay, that was kind of greedy. Why, what did you learn from that? Right? That is literally the time, right? We are watching this world flow by so quickly, but yet if we take the time to literally honor ourselves and connect back into ourselves, it's truly beautiful. Like seeing the natural world, seeing the connection, watching the birds sing, literally watching the leaves fall. Those simple natural things have also been a true way that I've connected back into myself.
Mm-hmm. That makes me really feel like, joy and that presence and that like connection to self happens in the moment, like happens in that pause. And I think when you say like the world's going minute by minute and it's just like going so fast, well, then it starts to feel like we're chasing joy. But if we're not in the present moment, even when we arrive at the moment where joy exists, we can't receive it anyway because we're busy like blitzing around. And I think that's such a huge lesson that a lot of us need to realize, that like joy happens right now, and your five physical senses, what you're seeing, what are you hearing, what are you feeling, what's really going on, like is the answer. But so many of us leave our body and we just go into our head and we miss it. We miss everything.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely, if we're not connected, we are truly missing the show. If you honestly think about it, we are living on a spiral. The world is turning, and so are we, right? We are meant to be here to evolve, to change, right? I chose to live in a very stagnant area where there wasn't much change, right? Like I chose to live in those conditions to literally learn from that we can spiral, literally rocket ourselves out of that manipulation, greed, all of those things, the control. We are literally our own disease until we realize we can have the power to gain full control over what we feel in our bodies, literally through the spiral of allowing ourselves to dig deeper. And I know that dark side, that shadow, those things are hard. It's hard to tell the truth in a world where so many things are hidden. But once you decide to tell the truth and speak your truth about who you truly were, man, it is so joyful. And literally being able to feel the rhythm of your own heartbeat is so magical. And then after that, literally trusting my own intuition. And that literally is how I really live day to day now, is just trusting that whatever comes forward is meant to be here at this time.
Yes, trusting your body, trusting your feelings, trusting your moments, like taking that pause to even hear that. Oh, that is great, because as I reflect on my journey too, I'm realizing, yeah, same. Yeah, same. Yeah, same. I come from I don't even know exactly, why this is a part of my field. It's not obvious connected to my past lives, even though I'm sure it's in there. But I really attach my sense of worth to what I'm achieving, to how hard I'm working. And that definitely comes from my childhood. I had three younger siblings. My parents worked very hard. And so the only way you could ever like register on my parents' radar is if you were just like absolutely excelling at whatever you were doing. You were very helpful. So I still bring that into my world now. And I may have what some people consider like success there's air quotations there if people can't see, success in having this business and being able to manage it. But I wasn't able to actually enjoy any of it because to me, there was always more work to be done. I had to get this done on time. I wasn't doing good enough. So but my punishment to myself, some people give up, but I would just push myself harder. But then it's like I created something that felt like a prison almost. And so when I've had to undo that, like exactly, you have to basically come back to yourself and say, well, what do you really want? Because it's not what you're doing, that's for sure. And then when you say that, like you kind of have to dig into why. Why am I doing this? What is at the end of that spiral that you think you need, but obviously don't? And the one thing that's helped me, and it's literally just been over the last year and a half, to just, stop and be like, okay, what do I need right now? And you go and you're like, I want to eat breakfast in my backyard, or I want to lay in bed for 10 extra minutes, or I want to just go walk in nature, or I crave this food. And when you actually do that, it's almost like your heart lights up, right? Because it's like, oh, you're listening to me. And that moment eating breakfast in your backyard might feel like something so insignificant, but your heart just like sings, hey?
And in all reality, that is the significance, right?
Yeah.
We have to learn how to trust those feelings, right? And connect back to the good, bad, and the fugly, right? Like
Yeah.
we literally are here to evolve, to change, to not live this stagnant life of, boot camp, if you want to use it, right? I feel like if I was to think of like 2 words of Rhonda before, I honestly felt like I was a pressure cooker. Everything was so bottled up inside of me. When I literally chose to go to that retreat and release those tears, the pressure just started to, I learned how to breathe again, right? I learned how to look and see and feel the world and myself, which, yeah, coming from a place where there was so many masks of how untrue I really was to myself.
And like that's just knowing astrology and knowing that you're a cusp, Pisces, Aries, like could you pick two of the more sensitive signs? Like they're so sensitive. And I would know I'm an Aries and so sensitive. And to have to bottle all of that up from day one, you're already feeling more than most people. So, oh yeah, pressure cooker to say the least.
Right? Like, and I allowed myself to be a human sponge, right? Everybody else's stuff I took in, right? And literally now with that huge realization, realizing why I was living in such an unhealthy body on all levels, right? Not only physical, but mentally, emotionally, and literally on a spiritual roller coaster.
And do you think you also took in not just other people's emotions, but also other people's impressions of who you were supposed to be?
Oh, absolutely. And then choosing to be adopted. So then seeing both sides of the perspective of actual blood relatives and adopted family. I chose that adoptive family in order for myself to see that, yes, blood flows in us, but we are easily manipulated by the world and environment that we choose to be around, unless we choose to balance, protect ourselves, and be in an area that literally is safe for our mind, body, and soul. Because a huge part of my journey since that retreat is I literally spoke my truth and left my corporate job. Then I left my community. And this year in March, I literally left the farm and am now living in Grand Prairie.
Oh, and congratulations. Deciding for yourself, right? Like what you wanted. I feel like your life has been this giant study between nature versus nurture, and then getting stuck in like both. And you've just decided to cut all the clutter and be like, I'll tell you who I am. My nature doesn't have to, and my nurturing, my home that I was raised in doesn't have to. I'm going to tell me who I am.
Oh, there's so much truth in what you just said there, because literally discovering me has been the most magical thing, right? Literally realizing that in order to nurture and nature myself, I literally had to bust myself out of all the conditions that I had placed on myself.
What a journey. And so where you're at now, does it just feel like, tell us how it feels to be, away from the farm and in this new community and doing all these things for yourself?
I feel like I'm still building my community. I'm allowing the world, the universe, trusting that the people who are meant to come into my life will come into my life. The disconnection from everything that I was used to has been a huge journey, but then allowing myself to connect and work with those discomforts, right? Disappointment. Why did I choose shame, rejection, all of those things have allowed me to just live each moment to the fullest and allow the journey to continue. And the more and more and more I continue, the more and more joy that I feel, literally from head to toe.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And yeah, congratulations. Yeah, that's amazing. When you decided to make these decisions, did you feel like the universe was just waiting for you to be like, hey, try this and go here? I always notice this moment when we decide to love ourselves more, the universe just conspires to like get us there faster, but we had to like look in that direction first. Do you feel like the universe just kind of like rolled out the red carpet for you once you got started?
Oh, I'll use this example because this example still blows my mind and body to this day. From the moment that my partner and I spoke the truth about us needing to leave the farm, it literally took 8 days for us to find our place and have the paperwork and have the keys. Like, it was so magical. And this place is honestly, before, did I ever think that I would live in a city? Nope, because I loved the farm, right? I loved everything about it, the nature, all those things. But there's a reason why this journey has brought me to the city, because watching the world, watching people is also one of the things that I need to do in this world. Because honestly, struggling with who I was, people can allow me so much learning from the disconnection from myself to the reconnection of myself. And honestly, in this world, people are like one of my hardest things to be around, because now I can see clearly both sides of the mirror, of the picture of where this world is struggling really hard.
Where would you say that is?
The complete disconnection from our hearts, from love, from ourselves, from truly honoring and naturally just telling ourselves, I love you. You are here. We are, we are bumping around. And truly, I feel like that major connection is missing from that heart.
That is so huge. We're all seeking something, and it's probably always at the end of the day like love, but we're seeking for it kind of in all the wrong places. Like you said earlier, we're looking for it in another person or a job or a career, but it's inside that we find it. But for some reason in this world, it feels like we've been taught since day one that whatever's inside of us ain't shit. And you got to look elsewhere. You got to be someone else. You got to do something else to find that love. And it's such a huge thing that we have to uncondition ourselves from believing, because it's the only way out. Like, what's that saying? It's like the only way out is through. Like, you have to go through yourself and find it there first. And it's also funny this conversation comes up. The other day, like this week, I'm pretty sure it was Monday, I was just really flustered. I don't know why. It was the Aries full moon not that long ago. And I was just like, oh, I'm just annoyed. Maybe it was last week. Anyway, and I started doing a meditation. And I've done this meditation 1,000 times, but this time I heard a new line I had never heard before. And it was from Louise Hay. And she said, like, it was about like your ears. It's like, I hear very well. And it's like, I hear the cry for love hidden in everyone's message. And I was particularly annoyed with people at that time. And I was like, oh, wow. Was that ever the awakening that I needed? Because people, even when they're just jerks, are just looking for validation or just looking for love or just looking for something in that realm. And it's like, oh, we all just want that. We all just want love at the end of the day. And we are disconnected from it. I think coming to Earth is one of the lessons is being disconnected from each other, but it's to find ourselves. I think that literally is one of the biggest lessons on this planet. I feel it's particularly hard for people who are maybe, very spiritual, because in the spirit side, we're sensitive, we're empathetic, because on the spirit side, we're so connected and so loved. Like I have very faint memories of like being on that side or being in other worlds where love is much more unconditional. And you don't want to wake up. Even if your life here is amazing, you're like, I don't want to go back there because it feels so much better to be here. Oh, yeah. We're all on a journey, hey?
Whoa, that is so true. And like you said about that quote from Louise Hay, like I feel and see a lot of deafness in this world, right? Like we're just choosing not to feel and hear that insight of, okay, this trigger was brought to me by ABC. Why did it happen? Everything happens for a reason. I believe that. And choosing to take the time and the pause to be like, okay, so why did that guy just cut me off? Again, the mirror, he's probably having a really bad day and didn't even realize that he did it to you, right? Mm-hmm. But then as humans, we reflect that back and then we feel anger, right? But then choosing to take that pause and breathe and just be, okay, let it go. That's over with, right? Moving on will allow us to lose that deafness and allow the insight into what are we here to learn? We're always learning.
I agree. And we take everything so personal. Like, even I had an interaction. I was at the gym today and I had my headphones on. So I couldn't hear what was going on around me. And someone walked up behind me and like were putting their shoes on, but I didn't know they were there. So then I like backed up and kind of bumped into them. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they just totally like ignored me and was just like, they just didn't have time for me. And I was like, I almost got mad about that. I was like, how rude. But then I was like, this probably isn't about me. Like if she, like that was a very innocent interaction. Like, don't take this so personal. This isn't about me. Like whatever's going on in her world is trumping that little tiny interaction.
Because truly, we are literally on personal journeys, every single human, right? And being able to see that reflection of, the disrespect, you felt disrespect from that person.
Mm-hmm.
But truly, their journey is completely different than yours. Maybe they are having a bad day, right? Like I said, I believe earlier, we're all human, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that if we come back to that stance, that we all are truly humans, evolving, learning, that truly, that's where we can reconnect and see, the good over the good or the bad. Yeah.
That's huge. Mm-hmm. That is a very good piece of advice. Because I think, we've kind of, I don't know what the word is, but it's almost like we just expect, as adults anyway, like we give so much forgiveness, hopefully to children. I don't have any, but hopefully people give forgiveness to children. But then it's like as adults, we just expect one another to be so on all the time or so successful or so perfect. And we've lost that compassion for ourselves first and foremost. But I think we've also lost it for all of our fellow humans. And yeah, that is where that disgruntled disconnection energy comes from. Yeah, I need to be better, especially when driving. I think that I'm pretty good 95% of the time, but you put me out there driving and I'm a spaz. I get angry. It sucks. ah. So, if you had like one piece of advice to give to the people listening about how to tap more into their joy or connect to themselves, is there one thing that you'd want them to know, want them to take away?
I feel like I need to read this quote because
Okay.
I feel like this will put our whole conversation into the nutshell that it needs to be.
Perfect. Let's hear it.
We have created an environment based on fear, greed, ambition, manipulation, hunger, and lack. Now imagine an environment based on beauty, relaxation, and creativity, joy, and love. Imagine living simply in your higher purpose without stress, compromise, and judgment. Love and tenderness would spread like wildfire throughout humanity, rebuilding bonds of long forgotten trust and healing the rifts between races. This is truthfully our nature. The Gene Keys.
Ooh, it's making me tear up. When you actually do imagine that, you are just like, oh, we could have it a lot better, but we need to choose.
Yep, because we are powerful human beings.
Mm-hmm. And as we shift into the age of Aquarius, one of the things that it feels like to me, because we're shifting into it now, is that the transformation that we're all seeking happens within. There's going to be no more collective transformation at the government level or the institution level. The transformation is going to happen slowly within the hearts of each of us, and it's going to gain that momentum. And we're going to topple the way things used to be that doesn't serve our human nature, but it has to happen within. That's where it all starts now, grassroots.
Absolutely. Our natural selves.
That is just magical. I'm so happy that you shared that quote. All right. Well, if people want to find you or hear more about your story or even maybe work with you, where can they get a hold of you?
So the easiest way to connect with me would be through Facebook right now. My Facebook page is Stephanie Jamie. As well, I do have a Journeying into Joy page. My email is journeyingintojoy@gmail.com. And yes, if you are ready and willing to take that leap of courage, I would love to help people reconnect with their inner love, their inner fire, their inner water, whatever you are needing. I am here to listen and guide and help. My intention for this world is to feel that joy, that love, that connection with our true selves again.
That's magical. Yeah. And it really just feels like you're like the picture that pops into my mind is it's like you're like plugging things back in, like the reconnection, right? Like, because you've done it. You've done it in such a major way. And your story, your lived experience is like the greatest self study to be somebody who can provide that support, right? So that is fantastic. I will definitely link all of those, your email and your Facebook pages in the notes so people can just click right on over. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share or say?
No, it's been an honor, and thank you so much for asking that question and for again the connection that brought us to this today. It's truly amazing when you let it flow.
I agree. And thank you for being here, because I feel like you've shared a lot about things that people just like struggle with, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here. And to have some of those anecdotes and suggestions and to know that it can happen, I think is huge for the listener. So thank you so much for being here, Stephanie, and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.